Hello and a very warm welcome viewers. You're watching this special presentation of Sansad TV with your host Kriti Mishra. Joining us today is a very special guest, Honorable Speaker of National Assembly of Mauritius, Mr. Adrien Charles Duval.
Mauritius National Assembly Speaker Adrien Charles Duval visited India recently. The visit emphasized bilateral cooperation between India and Mauritius in various fields, including parliamentary diplomacy, digitalization, and artificial intelligence.
So first of all, we are very, very grateful for the welcome that we have received here. The hospitality has been unparalleled, and we are grateful to the state of India for having organized such a high-level visit with the counterparts that we've met here, also with the quality of the discussions that we've had of the program itself. This is yet another great testament of the special relationship that Mauritius has with India.
Speaker of the National Assembly of Mauritius, Adrien Charles Duval, called on Lok Sabha Speaker OM Birla at the Parliament House complex. Speaker OM Birla congratulated Speaker Duval on his appointment as the Speaker of National Assembly of Mauritius and was pleased that his first state visit as Speaker was to India, noting this as a testament to the strong bilateral ties between the two nations.
ये एक साझी विरासत है। हमारे बड़ी संख्या के अंदर लोग मूल भारत से मॉरिशस गए, इसके कारण हमारे पीपल टू पीपल कॉन्टैक्ट बड़े मजबूत है। आपका स्वागत करता हूं, अभिनंदन करता हूं।
The Speaker of National Assembly of Mauritius also called on Vice President and Chairman Rajya Sabha Jagdeep Dhankhar and emphasized the long-standing bilateral relationship between the two countries. Their discussions highlighted the importance of continued parliamentary exchanges to further deepen ties between the two nations. The delegation led by Mauritian Speaker also attended a working session with Sansad TV on collaboration and expansion of Parliament TV of Mauritius.
The most relevant issue, I think, with regards to our communication to the public and our engagement is how do we communicate as an institution that has its uniqueness, the more so that it demands certain independence, it demands certain reservations in the way that we can comment on certain issues that may arise, even on parliamentary business, where impartiality has to remain apparent. So that is the difficulty that we have as an institution to engage public on social media, and that explains why there is a very little presence of the National Assembly on social media.
Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, they issue official bulletins. We have the advantage that we don't issue official bulletins. So many times what we put out on our TV channel is, I would say, more informal, a little less formal than an official bulletin. So we have that advantage, and many times in consultation with the presiding officers, there is no doubt we have a governing council which is headed by the two presiding officers and the Secretary Generals are there as members. So we function under their overall guidance, but in consultation with them, we also quite often give the facts and counter misinformation which is otherwise there in the social media. So when we put it out, it's much more reliable, and we have a certain amount of credibility that our audience at least recognizes that what we are putting out will be factual.
Indo-Mauritian relations are mutually beneficial. Our interests intersect. Our cooperation is comprehensive in nature and extensive in scope. It includes political understanding of each other's interests. A strong trade, economic and financial interaction strategic cooperation in the field of defense and security, energy-related cooperation, exchanges in the field of education, science, technology, and culture.
Welcome to Sansad TV, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's begin talking about your political journey, your personal life. What inspired you to get into the field of politics, and how has been the journey from being member of the National Assembly of Mauritius to being the Speaker of National Assembly of Mauritius?
Well, first of all, politics defines our future. What we do now will have an impact on what will be our position tomorrow, how the country evolves. And I always wanted to take an active role, play my part in the future of the country. So politics has always been also running deep in my vein. I've had the opportunity to be inspired by people who I look up to, who have shown me the ways, in fact, of politics, and the importance of working for a better future, for a common future. And with people such as my father, who I look up to, and my grandfather, who has always been a prominent political figure in Mauritius, I've had this personal, inspirational journey through them to work for the betterment of the country. And I guess this has been the first motivating factor to get into politics. It's a difficult step forward. There are a lot of unknowns. It's a harsh world. It is also a world that can be very lonely, and unless you have the support of people who stand by your side and who are prepared to push you into your political journey, my political career has taken today another dimension. In fact, it is a dimension that requires that I step aside of politics, of the political arena, and that I take on a role which requires impartiality, reservation, and of course, to do the business that I have to do in the most fair manner to all. So that is something that is new for me, because I have been, in the last 10 years of my active political career, a very engaged member of my former party, which I had to obviously step aside since becoming Speaker of the National Assembly. So it has required a different kind of discipline now, and a mental discipline to be able to put aside political differences and to look at the priority that is being the National Assembly, making sure that the business is conducted in the interest of democracy, in furtherance and the strengthening of our democratic infrastructure, of our democratic institution that is Parliament.
Absolutely. So, Excellency, how do you balance the diverse interests and voices on the floor of your house, your Parliament?
Well, the one thing is to make sure that everybody gets a fair chance of addressing certain issues. I think that the most important part in the role of the National Assembly is to keep government to account. That is its fundamental role. And for you to be able to do that, it goes that the opposition should have its voice heard. And its voice is heard through questioning and also through debate. I believe firmly in allowing every member of Parliament to be able to express themselves, especially when there are national issues of national importance. For example, during question time, I am a keen advocate for allowing a bit more time, if required, when there are issues that are so important that it is in the interest of the country that these issues be canvassed, fully. The needs of both the opposition and government. We have to stay fair also, of course, to government, because there are certain rules that are in place that ensures that the business is done so that the interests of the country prevail, but at the same time, issues that necessitate to be heard can be heard without the speaker or the speaker's administration becoming an impediment to those. I think that is my role, to make sure that we do not create impediments, rather to facilitate the business, whether it is for the government, whether it is for the opposition, as long as it is in the interest of the country.
And of course, it is of paramount importance to keep the democratic institutions and structures alive and the practices. So, how do you implement that on the floor of the House?
Yes. So, one thing is to observe the rules to the letter. That is, for me, the most important aspect of my role as Speaker, to ensure that the rules are there to be respected and to apply those rules to all parties fairly. I think this is the most important, to make sure that the environment in which MPs work is such that they can all do their work and where there's not only the perception of fairness, but where proceedings are actually fair. Debate is another aspect of how MPs get to express themselves. We have, through the passing of bills, legislations, we have ample opportunity for members to express themselves. My role as Speaker in allowing the debate is to make sure that one does not abuse the privilege that comes with being a member of Parliament. That is the privilege to address the Assembly, the privilege to address the Assembly without fear of being sued for defamation. You have an immunity that comes with the job to ensure that MPs can do their work without fear or favor. So you have to make sure also that this is not subject of abuse. So my role as a speaker in allowing the debate is less a moderator, but more an impartial arbiter, to make sure that there isn't any abuses.
Absolutely. I'm also reminded of a very important announcement that you made on the floor of the House on 2nd of August 2024 about digital transformation heralding into new era for the National Assembly. Tell us more about that.
Yes. So I believe firmly in facilitating the access of parliamentary work to the public. One of the barriers that we have, unfortunately, still is the language barriers. As you may know, in Mauritius, most people speak the native language Creole, and a lot of people have difficulties in understanding the parliamentary proceedings, which are mostly in English, and therefore allowing those proceedings to be conducted in French, at least through transcription, translation, and also through our video on-demand platforms that are available online, that would allow, for example, debates carried out in English to be followed in French. That would be the first leg of abating those barriers, the language barrier, in order to ensure facilitation of access of parliamentary work to the public. The second issue is the parliamentary works itself being of a complex nature. Our rules have been written in such a way that they are not easy to understand. They are subject to interpretation, and most of the time these rules are specific to Parliament, and therefore the public does not necessarily understand the workings of Parliament. So the second leg of that digital transformation program is to ensure that we can engage the public on our procedures, on the various rules that are in place, to ensure that they understand the reasoning behind any decision that is made, or any item which is on the order paper, so that they truly understand the functioning of Parliament, so then they can gauge how well it works, what are the areas of improvement, and what are the, of course, the areas where we can move on and reform.
Well, absolutely. And before we wrap up this conversation, Honourable Speaker, your priorities going ahead for the National Assembly of Mauritius?
Yes, so the number one priority actually is to see that digital transformation strategy go through. I think that I owe it to myself and to the office to ensure that I leave this office in a better position than when I first got the job. I think today we have the priority of the day has to be in line with our time. I think with technology, it has never been so easy now to facilitate access to public. Also, I think we have an archive at the National Assembly which dates back from the 1880s, so nearly 200 years old. And I think that, well, in fact, more than 200 years old. So I think that, in fact, the preservation of those archives is also something that needs to be done. And this is also part of our strategy. We want to ensure that in the coming months, the public can really take an interest and engage with Parliament, with parliamentarians, with officers of Parliament, to ensure that the National Assembly shines as it deserves to shine, and also to ensure that the public is driven towards the business of the National Assembly, which dictates at the end of the day everyone's lives, our daily life. If we are a stakeholder, a business person, a citizen, no matter what walk of life we're from, we have a direct interest in the business of the National Assembly. So it's about ensuring that we get the access that we deserve to get on the workings of Parliament and on the business of Parliament. It is also important because our democracy, for it to work, the people who engage, who participate in that democracy, need to know how it works. A democracy doesn't work if people ignore its workings. And Parliament being essential in a democratic society, I think that this is the most commendable strategy that not only I, but my predecessors have been leading towards. And I am ambitious to see the strategy come to fruition, at least part of it, before I leave office.
Fantastic. What a pleasure having you in our studio, and all the very best for all your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, viewers, that's all we have for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Goodbye for now from my side.